Good evening. My name is Zach Hughes, and this is Hot Topics. Tonight we are going to talk about a few things, but we're going to take a little trip back in time. We're going back 6 years, and we're going to talk about where we were this week 6 years ago. And I got to tell you, wow, a bunch of us were probably hanging on for, um, you know, something. But yeah, we're going to talk about that, and we're also going to. I'm going to look at my anniversary here up in Vermont, and we're going to talk about how it's been for me up here, and then we're going to look at a few other stories making news. Um, but before I jump in tonight, let me put the link in the Hot Topics in the chat here for the Hot Topics page. Let's see what we got going on here. So, I think that should do it. There it is. That is the Hot Topics Facebook page. You can go over there and take a look at previous shows. I am starting to upload the shows over there. What's going to happen is you're going to see them. They're going to be on YouTube after I transfer them to YouTube, and then you can see them through a link over there. Facebook has a 30-day storage policy, and they mean business. I've actually lost a couple shows by not uploading it fast enough or whatever. Anyway, head on over there, and if you haven't done so already, give me a like or a follow, whichever's available over there, and we'll go from there. Okay. Well, folks, it is a quiet Sunday today, for the most part, and we're going to jump into we're going to take a little trip back in time. A little bit, anyway. We're going back about 6 years. And we're going to go back to this week, 6 years ago. And, I didn't really write about it. And, this week has a lot of significance for me. Not only was it COVID, but, there's a couple other things going on this week as well for significance. And also I've been in Vermont, 1st of March, I'd come to Vermont. It was 38 years ago this year. So let's jump into 6 years ago. So, folks, I gotta say, wow, the changing day for me, a lot of folks said it was March 11th, 2020 for them. For me, it was March 13th, 2020. And ironically, I believe that was a Friday as well. And it's interesting that this year it was a Friday too. And I want to talk about the significance of this because a lot of us had different reactions. Mine was a slower approach reaction and not really understanding. Well, I understood it, but didn't really click in until March 13th of 2020. Um, Days before that, I was, playing it cool, and we were having a nice, cool approach to it. I remember writing a memorandum on the 4th of March for a nonprofit I ran to let people know how we were going to do this. And it was a similar memorandum that I had written, back when we were dealing with the H1N1. Back in 2009, I want to say. So it was very similar memorandum and really didn't think it was much of a deal. I remember seeing one of my providers, and we both kind of said, don't worry about it, jokingly. And yet, we watch the news every night, and you kind of watch this COVID or coronavirus, as it was being called back then, creeping in. And, a lot of us were just trying to go on about our business. I do remember that. And But in the back of my mind, I do remember just thinking, man, it'd be great if we dodged this one. Um, Unfortunately, other states were not dodging this one, and early on we saw some major stuff in Washington State, but it is here on March 13th that I wish to talk about. It was so that week I had planned to go to a conference with my coworkers up in Burlington at UVM. We were supposed to go up, but because of coronavirus and those concerns, we decided to stay back, and they were going to have us join on a teleconference on screen. And that Friday, I woke up. I was in a very sour mood, as I remember. Hey, Caitlin. I was in a very sour mood that Friday, and so I got up, and it was a cloudy day. I do remember it, although the pictures I shared this week on my Facebook show that there was a little bit of sun near the end of the day that day. But I went down to the bus stop eventually in the afternoon, and early afternoon, and it was, while I was waiting there, somebody came out of the store, and they said, there's no toilet paper, or no cleaning supplies, no toilet paper. And I remember this is where I clicked. This is where the click occurred. So suddenly I went from that cool persona to a something different, like probably survival mode, I would say, close to it. And I went up to that event, and I remember my mind just wasn't at that event. And I remember thinking, man, I would love to have them reschedule this. That all the information we're getting from the event is great, but it's not great today. And it was really telling to me, and, what I was feeling. And, the conference got over. And I went home and I took some pictures, which I shared on my Facebook. This week I shared it as part of this whole thing I want to talk about. And, I went home and, I went to the store. I'm trying to find this video. I'll try to find it and post it if I can find it. But I took a video of our Shaws down here that evening, and there was no toilet paper. There was Kleenex, but no toilet paper. And, lots of people have said this is a survival thing. It was a click. People went and bought like 4 or 5 cases, whatever. And some people later on would want to bring them back because they realized they didn't need that much. But it was a really interesting time because it was uncertain. And then you had the different people, so this whole thing of trying to still play it cool was not really. I mean, within a couple of days, I would start to enter, with everybody else, we would start to enter this new remote scenario, where you would work remotely. And I'm not used to that. I remember saying to a friend of mine, we're not rigged for that, meaning that this country is not rigged for this type of thing, where we're being told to stay in our houses, and, we didn't know what was going to happen. And, again, it didn't really, it was a slower thing for me, and I do remember that. And we will talk a little bit about, in the next show, I will talk a little bit about the experience as it went through. But I wanted to discuss the March 13th event because it was the first time for me, I think, the feeling I had. I don't even want to I don't even know how to describe that switch, going from a cool, collected person to suddenly what the hell we're supposed to do. Um, I can say that, yeah, I hadn't felt like that ever in my life. And that included in some traumatic events in my life. Um, so I do kind of mark this every year because it's significant for me. Um, and, you know, I look at where we've come from. I mean, from that point, and we'll talk about it again, you know, as we not this event again, but just where everything kind of went and how we adapted in it. Because nobody really realized the significance of this. And for folks who I had people say that it was like a vacation. I'm going to tell you right now, being in your home, uncertain of what's going to happen for 3 months is not a vacation. That is a whole separate thing. But anyway, I just want to say, and yes, now we're treating COVID like, COVID is around. Um, and I ended up going 3 years without getting it. I got it in December of 2023, and in fact, COVID was responsible for breaking my 5 year and 11 month streak without getting majorly sick. I say again, 5 years and 11 months. And, that was the longest I'd ever gone without a major illness. So, I must say that's something else. But I will, we will talk about it, more as we go along, a little bit more. And definitely, if you want to, talk about too, about what it was like for you, it definitely, I do like how I played it cool for a while. I really do like that, but I definitely, now that we're used to it, maybe it won't be so bad if you had to do it again. But man, I hope we don't have to do that again. So let's see. What else is happening? My God, let's see what you have to say, Caitlin, before I move on. So, I remember being terrified and traumatized when I got COVID the first time. And yes, so one of the things that definitely I wanted to actually acknowledge is I did lose a family member during COVID as well, Caitlin, and I also experienced a lot of anger because I had people who were denying COVID, and so yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I get that, Caitlin. I wanted to let people know that my family member died of COVID, and it was hard to watch my my cousin and my aunt, and the rest of the family there go through that experience, and then have people who were deniers of COVID on my Facebook. And one went too far with me, and I let him know it. And I appreciate everyone's views, but there's a point where it goes too far. And that happened. It happened. And there was just a lot to that whole thing: the trauma, the the feelings. And the other thing that was the problem is that is like like folks who have disabilities, who have physical disabilities, and who have medical conditions which make them susceptible to these to things like coronavirus, COVID. Just not something to fool with. And I think that's the other thing that kind of got to me. And I think I posted, and I'll find that interview because I'll post it on the, I'll try to get it over on the Hot Topics page. But I did an interview with WCAX. Again, you'll see that I'm playing it cool. I did, and I'm trying to talk about the importance of washing hands and of really just playing it, safe and that was only a mere day or two before I clicked. So yeah, let's see what you said. So you're saying your grandpa died of long haul COVID issues, 2 years to the day. Yeah. So right. So then there was long haul COVID as well. You know, excuse me. Most of us probably were lucky and got that short COVID. But some people weren't so lucky and they got long haul COVID, and people didn't know what to do with that. So, imagine having COVID and COVID symptoms long after the first round. So, what would that be like? And, that's the thing. I mean, and the other thing with COVID that was interesting is it altered the body. There were things, like you're just probably saying here, it altered the body. So, because, and one of the reasons I was glad I didn't go to UVM, and I need to make that clear when we had our conference, is because COVID was already up there, unbeknownst to, unbeknownst to a lot of people. It was a basketball game, and COVID was in that gym, and several people got it, and those were among the first deaths in Vermont. That is another thing. I mean, just watching, when you're inside and having to, just look at the comments. You're having to have this routine. And yes, you can work remotely, but it's really an interesting routine. And for me, when I did go inside, I literally stayed there. And I did go out only for errands. And eventually, around April, I started to go outside and spend time outside. So that is literally how I took it. Yeah, the nursing home deaths were also notable, Caitlin, definitely also. So you're noting that a bunch of residents at the nursing home your cousin was in died, along with his roommate, and I'm at his exactly. So one of the issues that did not click with me either, and I have to acknowledge this there, is in Washington State there was, there was a issue in a nursing home there that I remember asking a question, what is it about nursing homes? And I should know because, I've been in one. Nursing homes are probably susceptible for this sort of thing. And we had this up in Vermont as well, by the way. It definitely wasn't, COVID was not discriminate. And I was fortunate in 2023 to only get a mild case, even though it felt like it wasn't mild, but it was mild. And I did my best in the 3 years to avoid it. And somehow I did avoid it for 3 years. And knock on wood, I haven't had it since. But it was a lot of changes. You have to understand, there are some positive changes out of this, out of COVID. And one of them is the ability to remotely work. It has increased. um, because we have that technology. There just was so many, which I'm willing to talk about in a future show. There just was so many changes to it. You know, and the other thing I wanted to mention, let me just make sure we're still on. Yeah, we are. Um, is that that was just like a whole experience, and hopefully, and it affected. The other thing it affected was kids having to work at home, be at home, and it was a whole different experience socially wise with kids. And I do remember making a half joke to a parent about it and said, "Well, where's your hall pass?" But they weren't laughing because parents aren't used to this. They had to help their kids get through that technology, and then came graduation, and boy, was that a debate and a half. Because people were upset that their kids would not be able to graduate traditionally. And this was really something. They did make the ceremonies, they did manage to make those ceremonies to the best of their abilities, but they were not a traditional ceremony. And I have to say, it must have been hell for the kids, or heck for the kids, because those traditional high school activities, well, I don't know. I mean, 2020 was rough. And let me see what else going in the comments. So, Kaylin, you're saying you've had it 3 times. Yep. Yep. So they did have some variety different graduations, drive through. But the ones I saw mostly were, at least up here, where you went up, got your diploma. It was Spartan attendance. It was nothing compared to the graduations that we're used to. And it just was a lot of different things that happened. And I don't even want to, just to imagine to say, well, my high school, a kid not being able to experience the traditional high school activities. Even my family friend, they weren't able to go to Washington like was planned, so their Washington trip in 8th grade was scrubbed. So things like that just were very hard to watch, and these limitations that were put on, not just staying home, but like for the first couple of months or so, you couldn't go to the store to get something that was not an emergency, or not, like you couldn't get something that would be considered leisure. So if your computer broke down, well, you'd have to have it mailed or something like that. That's interesting. So you're saying, Kaylin, honestly, I feel that if I was allowed to do school remotely, I would have been successful. I do better remotely, right? Some people do better remotely, and they also do better independently, working independently, or being able to work on their terms. But remotely is, I think remote is a very interesting thing, and I think what came out of COVID was the remoteness. I joke about it a little bit about who made money on Zoom, the company Zoom, and all these technologies that we have where we're on the screen right now. And we can have conferences. We hold board meetings remotely now. We don't have to go meet in person. Lots of people got used to remote, and I talked about this on another show, so I want to try not to go too deep into it, but one of the biggest changes was remote got more respect. Even though you've had a few people, a few companies say come back to the office or else, other companies are saying, you know what, actually we don't need that. Um, and I was also afraid certain things would disappear with COVID. To be honest, what I worried about most was that the conference industry would disappear. And the reason is because you could remote do conferences remotely. You don't have to, do them in person. In fact, I attended a conference that was totally remote in 2021. And it was I still like the in-person conferences. Um, it's just something that I have a hard time wanting to, give up. If they ever said, well, we're not doing, conferences in person anymore, I would be like, you know. But I I think that one of the things it didn't kill was that. But what it did do, as I said, is we had these conversations about remote work and being more flexible. Um, Even though I did a show a while back talking about, people being told they need to come back to the office or else. The same with the state of Vermont indicating they wanted people back to the office a few days a week. Um, and the thing is, people weren't into it. The other thing that happened with COVID is, and myself included, I hate to say it, in a sense, but a lot of us, being in our home for 3 months, we probably had plenty of time to think. So one of the things that came out of this was that people had had enough of whatever they were doing, and they decided it was time to change and do something else, known as the Great Resignation or the Great Quit, or as my friend who used to be an executive director would say, the Great Renegotiation. And in my case, it was the Great Renegotiation. It didn't end up being a resignation. It ended up being I was able to renegotiate. Um, and I did that. I used that. Um, and I had another reason to change jobs, but I think COVID played a part in it because I had given some thought to it. And then I made some other changes, and I don't know about you, but I made some other changes in life too. I was no longer on an automatic pilot scenario. I took full control of the stick in a way and just said, this is what we're going to change. And initially it was, this is what I'm going to change if I can get out of this, meaning out of COVID, out of this whole pre-COVID, you're in the major of COVID, in your apartment in my apartment looking out the window every day, which was literally what it was. It was a window. It was a window in my living room. That's where I would be every single day. I had a laptop set up, and that's where I was. Um, and and so I actually am motivated to write a story. I haven't done it yet because somebody wanted someone had put in a local newspaper here. I think it was The Bridge about writing a story in 2047. Where are we? And that was an amazing idea, and I just hadn't sat down to do it. But I was going to start the story by talking about looking out that window because it was a window. And it's a window in my living room. It's the very left window of my living room. And it's just very powerful to talk about all this. But I think the remote work and just this whole idea of people being able to renegotiate and all that is really important to understand. Life is valuable. So let's talk about a little bit of a brighter topic, and we will talk about COVID a little more, learning curves out of it. When we have another show, I will do this again. But I wanted to share some powerful stuff from 6 years ago. Now, 38 years ago, March 1st, I came to Vermont. And I come from Texas originally, and I came up here, you know, and moved up here as a kid, new family because I was adopted. Um, and Vermont was just like a whole different place. um, but for some reason, I haven't returned and wanted. I have thought about moving back to Texas before. The closest I came was a few years ago, but my girlfriend at the time wasn't interested in it, and I don't blame her in the least. You know, the Houston area is susceptible to a lot of bad weather. But yeah, so a lot of fun with that. But I did look, there was a place down there I was looking at, and I wanted to go. Not a place, but, you know, an area I was looking at. And I said, man, it would be great to go down there. And I was going to go down and take a look around, you know. And so, but I've always stayed with Vermont. Do you know why I tend to stay with Vermont? There are several different reasons that I stay. Yes, I know, honey. It's not allowed. I got you. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's not allowed. You're absolutely right. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. It's, you know, but there was a time where I thought about it. And, you know why I don't do it? Because I love it up here. There's plenty of reasons to like it. The winter is not one of them. However, there is winter activities, and I don't think I'm going to be doing it this season, but maybe I'll get some sit skiing in. I keep saying that, and I have a friend who's offered to take me to, I think it's Sugar Bush or something, to do sit skiing again, and that will be like a 36-year, you know, length of time since I last sat ski. But that is one of the, you know, fun things of winter. But generally speaking, winter's a hard time up here. And, you know, generally speaking, I love it up here. I called it the island because, yep, and I've heard of the woodlands, and, yeah, right? Yeah, you're not interested in woodlands, huh? Yeah, and the other thing, you know, about Houston is that the air quality in Houston is not the best. You know, so that would probably not be good. But there has been this idea that, you know, I like to go back once in a while to, let's see, when was the last time I was back there? Well, I passed through Dallas-Fort Worth back in 2021, so I guess that is a short visit of maybe 2 hours. But you know, the last major trip back was in 2015. And my friend Jimmy, I hope to go see him at some point. You know, but the point being is that Texas, I still consider Texas home. You know, I don't even pretend to be a Vermonter. Never. Well, I hope you do track my plane. I really enjoyed doing that. I really enjoyed you tracking me like that. And I really enjoyed talking to you. Drinking coffee and staying up for 36 hours and having you help me out with that. Yeah, we'll try not to do that 36-hour thing again. But, you know, it was just really cool to be able to do that. But I have to say, going back down there was, and coming back here is always different. So I call Vermont the island for a reason. So a lot of my friends will see it when I come back to Vermont from a long trip or a mid-trip. And I'll say, I've returned to the island. And there's a reason for that. Vermont is like an island. You folks don't get it who haven't left Vermont. It's totally different after you cross over, even into New Hampshire. Look, I'm telling you right now, it's different. I feel the difference when I cross. You know, and sometimes it's good, other times it's not so good. A couple times I've compared it to like slamming into a wall because everything is going so fast in the other states, and then you come back and poof, everything is like quiet. I mean, if I listen outside right now, it's quiet, right? There's no bustling activity, okay? And that's the difference. And the other thing about Vermont that's fun, and I love it, is when I go to other states, they'll say things like, "Is that a city? Where's that? What state's that in?" Or they'll say, "We don't know what we're going to do with you Vermont people." Well, Or how about the time I was in Virginia and I was being treated for the flu, and the doctor said, "Well, I used to ski there. I used to ski at Stowe." I said, "Yeah, well, we're not too far. I'm not too far from Stowe." So, Vermont has its, it's interesting because we're seen as, a travel area and, not an actual state. A lot of the time on the other, So Vermont has a lot of different things too. And what I've told other people, who tell me they want to leave state, especially the younger folks. And I caution the younger folks because the other state, it's still going on, Denise. I'm not gonna. Hi, Denise. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I should have prefaced. Yes, COVID is still alive and well. Yeah. It's like we need to do a TV. You're right. We need to do a TV show about this. 'Cause I'm telling you, it's different here. But yeah, Denise, I definitely want to acknowledge what you're saying here because we got to go back a little bit, guys. I'm sorry. Hang on. Let me see. I want to take a look at Denise's comment here because she's absolutely right. Denise is saying that it's running everywhere. I had it in Burlington when I stayed in Rehab Place. That place was at the same time with the Beatles that were living under the rugs. And they got COVID there too. And it was so nasty. I am back in Berlin, but need a patient advisor on finding a place to live. Even temp till I can get my own place. So much. Yes, and Denise, we are working on that patient advisor thing. And I will get a hold of you to do that with you. Okay, so yeah, I just want to acknowledge COVID has not gone away. So just because, real quick, and then we're going to go back to my Vermont story. COVID has not gone away. And I really appreciate Denise's perspective because we often forget about the facilities. Okay? And COVID is still rampant. So just because we're allowed to walk around with a mask on now and we're allowed to resume, quote, normal life, which I've never called that normal anymore. I don't even know what that is anymore. So, it is still going. And I don't, think it's going to disappear. So I do appreciate you for bringing that up, Denise, and we are going to work on that patient advisor thing, and just so you're aware of that. Exactly, that's exactly right. It is. That's exactly right. And Caitlin just mentioned, Denise, that we are working on an advocate peer thing with a nursing home, and we are. Actually, I think I'm going up to one this week. So I'll put you in my schedule there, Denise. And we'll go from there. But welcome back to Berlin area. Goodness gracious, I'm glad I don't have to travel to Burlington. But I loved seeing, well, I don't think I loved, but it was nice seeing you when you were in the hospital. It was nice being able to talk to you. I hadn't talked to you in a while. A little fun fact about me and Denise. Well, she used to be my boss, and I used to be her boss. An irony, huh? Um, and uh, and I'm a friend of her son's. So that's how we are connected. Okay. Vermont, guys. So, what do y'all think of Vermont? And you Vermonters can tell me it's home and you love it. But make sure to let me know what you think of Vermont and what keeps you here. What keeps me here is I just don't know what I'd do in another state. I haven't, we're talking 38 years here, okay? And if I suddenly decided to go back to, say, Texas, or I decided to move to another state that I was interested in, then what? I, the reality is Vermont has it so great, and I think people don't understand that. The only thing I will agree with people on is Vermont is expensive. I get that, but we have it good here, people, including you young folks who want to leave state. Please tell me again why you want to leave state. Because we have it good here. Okay? And I could go into about a dozen examples of what I mean by good, but I won't right now. But I tell young people every day, you have it good. You just don't realize it. Until you go somewhere and you end up getting in trouble in another state and get locked up for 5 years. A great example. Okay? I think I should just go there because I just what I love about people, especially young people, is they just don't see it. They say, well, I'm going to leave state. Well, leave state. See ya. I know offense, but I want to leave state too. Sometimes I have those days too, and I don't want to leave state. I'm done. But I don't know what I would do with myself. But definitely tell me what brought you here, what keeps you here, and what are some good things and not so good things about Vermont. Okay? Yeah. Let's see. Let's see where we're at on time. Yeah, my goodness, we have 15 or so minutes. I'm going to try not to go too far on tonight. But let's jump into, let's see. Let's talk about how your self-care is going. I got to tell you, this is, we are now 3 weeks into a war in Iran. And how is that affecting you as you're watching this and being like, oh my God. And how it is affecting me is that, it's my hope that it doesn't, go too far. But, and the biggest thing is I try to live life. I really try to do that. My news exposure each day is, quite low. I listen to NPR on a daily basis, except for weekends. I don't usually listen to NPR on weekends, but I usually listen to about an hour of NPR. Then I rely on, articles that come across, or ABC News clips or whatever. There's just so much that could be said, and all you can do is really look at your self-care. I want to make a couple comments though on a couple of different things going on around the country right now, and in this state. A friend of mine called me the other night, or messaged me because I had asked her for a favor to help me out with someone earlier in the day. And she wanted to let me know that she was going to be going off to Burlington to be part of a standoff up there. And I said, yeah, okay, be safe. Do the best you can. And, uh-oh. What do we got going on here? Okay, I'll get to that in a second there, Caitlin. Woo! Yeah. Where was I? So my friend told me they were going to Burlington to some standoff, and I said, "Oh, okay, be safe." Um, I saw on the news what that was, and it was a standoff protest. I won't get into particulars here, but what I will get into is the what my friend told me. My friend was on the ground there. Okay, so we can all be keyboard warriors and second guess. And I gotta be honest, I didn't know what happened on the ground there. You see it on the news, but you kind of say, well, but I have a question about this. And and so my friend was all but happy to fill me in on what happened. Um, and we need to continue to have this conversation because there's a divide in this country. And I hope the heck I don't get kicked for this, but it's okay. The show has frozen before because of things like this, so we'll be careful with it, hopefully. But I think we need to have this conversation. There's just so many commenters, and I got to say to you, keyboard warriors, what if your freedom of speech was impeded on? What if you weren't allowed to say what I've seen this week on comments? Boy, would that be a surprise for you. But be it that it may, we live in a free country, which is great because you're able to be those keyboard warriors and say those comments that are interesting, to say the least. We all each have our opinions, and I agree. Yeah, that's fine. But the next time you want to go rally and protest, think about the way you commented to these folks who were out there. And they were out there doing what they wanted to do. I talked about this last show. It's not okay to impede on people's right to rally and protest. They understand there's consequences. But we're well aware of consequences. However, there is a question of how much force was used here. And I get that. But, bottom line is, it's like I don't get to impede on your ability to speak. I can challenge you, and that's what you're doing with this. You're challenging these folks who are protesting. That's fine. That's fine. But understand that, everyone has a right to that protest and rally thing. Is it right the way it went? I don't know. But what I will say is it was described as not so good, and this is where these discussions have to happen. Our state legislators have vowed to have hearings on the matter. I can't wait to see those hearings. I think we need to have these conversations because everybody has the right to protest and rally. They can. It's protected. And it can, now people say, well, they don't have the right to do this at law enforcement. And you're probably right. But to really be critical of someone's ability to go out and do that, let them do it. What is it to you? You know what I'm saying? What is it to you? If I want to go out and protest and rally, I can do that. If you want to go out and protest and rally, you can do it. And know the consequences. We all know the consequences. I was invited to a rally in Maine, and we talked about possibility of arrest. It was remote, but it can happen, and we call it civil disobedience. Now, did it go too far here in Burlington? I don't know, but let's ask this question. Are we going too far with the aggressive nature of the ICE enforcement? Or is it, something else? So when you ask about going too far, let's talk about going too far. Anyway, that is just one story. And I just wanted to mention that because I see it in the country, it's a great divide. It's a great divide. And again, this is where I talked about neutrality. Um, yeah, yeah, I'm not surprised about that. Again, protests, you can get arrested. Yeah, I mean, yeah. And some of my friends don't mind getting arrested. That's part of the whole thing. You get arrested. And it's civil disobedience, and that's it. But did Burlington go too far? And there's a question about that. And we'll see. We'll see about that. Because what you had there at that protest was lawmakers were on the ground over there. So I cannot wait to see what happens here with that. And I think what's important to understand is, for the other side, you have a right to rally and protest too. You may not do that, or you may not like the fact that people do that, but they have a right to do it. One gentleman who's in this did say on his Facebook he would defend it, but he felt like it went too far here. Okay, and that's fine. That's why we live in a free country. And imagine the other side if your speech was impeded suddenly and you weren't allowed to say any of that. Just wanted to just give you that because it's possible, so just be careful with all this because you never know. But my point is, we live in a free country, and that's what's important to understand. Yeah, and that can happen too. Protests are a variety of different rallies. My first rally, let me think. My first rally was actually, now that I speak of it, we might as well talk about it, and then I can wrap it up here. But my first rally was, I want to say it was in 2000, and it was an unpermitted rally, meaning we didn't get permits. So the rules are when you do these things, you can do them, but you cannot impede the right of way when you do it. And we did do a rally, and that's where I met one of my friends, or two of my friends. And they actually worked for me for a couple of years, volunteer-based. But I ended up doing a rally there, and then we did another rally. I did another rally for Vermont Center for Independent Living. We did a rally, and that one was permitted, meaning it had gotten its permits for that. And to me, I have my limits with rallies, so I haven't really determined. I guess it would have to happen real fast, or it would happen on site, would be whether I would allow myself to get arrested, meaning would I allow myself to get caught up in it. And I guess it would have to really be deep for me to do that, to do that. And I want to just acknowledge these folks who are out there rallying. They are feeling deep. And I just don't think it's, yes, you can criticize them. That's a free country. But I don't think it's fair because I think that, you have the same right. You could do the same thing. And what if you did the same thing and I criticized you? Just think about that. Because you're like, well, no, that's different. No, it's not different, though. Let's say you have I want the other side to think about, there's something passionate for them. How far would they go? So I'm going to leave that with you folks tonight, and let me just see if there's anything in the comments, because this is pretty powerful stuff. I just want to make sure I got everything. So I appreciate everybody, I really do, and I appreciate the whole thing of just being able to observe from, both sides, and man, But hopefully, you know, I have to say, Caitlin, if I had to go to a rally, I'm bringing you with me. Just saying. Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty much that. And I just hope your self care is going good, because I gotta be honest with you, this stuff is really rough. Um, so, what are you doing for self care? Let's hope you're doing good with that. We'll visit that again. Folks, it is getting up to time. My goodness, I got 5 more minutes. You have 5 more minutes. I'll stay with you for the hour here. But, you know, it's just really a different time right now. Um, and let's all try to be, be thinking about all this, because this is powerful stuff. Let's see, you said, yeah, so those are self-cares for you, Kaylin. That's important. Yeah, definitely want to do that. You know, if you have to do that, there's absolutely no problem with taking care of yourself in any way, shape, or form if you have to do it. You know, today for me, I ended up cleaning my apartment, getting it where I needed to go. You know, and hopefully I can, because you know, there's a limit to what I will take in an apartment. I'm trying to do it a little bit. So, you know, I've had some help from some friends to help me get it where I need to be, where I can handle it. And I appreciate that help. And then today I kind of spent just getting some stuff really reorganized. And so, yeah. Okay. Well, folks, it's been fun here. Next week town is testing water, so I have to clean the house because they have. Oh, wonderful! Wow, they come into your house. Wow. Okay. Oh yeah. Wow. I have to go live down there. You know what? You know what, Galen? I have to go live down there because there's some weird stuff. I had no idea. You know. Oh man. I mean, will they have to come into my place too? If I lived down there? I mean, oh my God. Yeah. You know, it's some weird stuff, you know, down there. Just something I wouldn't be used to. You know, like, you know, having to buy town trash bags. Can you imagine having to do that? Yeah. We don't have that problem here in Montpelier because we don't have that. Okay. But, yeah. And now you're telling me they're checking the water and they have to come into your house. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, that happens, I guess. No, I wouldn't be thrilled either. Yeah, definitely not. But, you know, you're always free to move up here to Montpelier. It's very picturesque. Yeah. I don't know how you get the trailer up here, but there you go. So, yeah, we're going to talk about that during another show, because I'm curious about that. Maybe you'd be willing to talk about that a little bit. Yeah, that is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. You buy town trash bags. And it is expensive. I don't doubt it. Yeah. Okay, folks, it's been fun here from Montpelier, smallest capital in the United States. I am Zach Hughes. And thank you for coming in. Thank you for putting up with me. And thank you for listening. It's been a wonderful time. I always love it. Love it or hate it. I'll be here next week, 7 o'clock. And so, look forward to it. And Zach Hughes here from Montpelier. Guess what? It is time for me to go. I am out of here.